Yeah. Hi guys, good evening. So, did you complete the project? All of you? Really? Completed? No? Yes or no? Yes. Okay, good. Today we are going to talk about one more concept related to advanced Java, that is filters, right? Yeah. We already understood what is servlet and why we need to go for servlet. Can you tell me what is servlet and why we need to go for servlet? Servlet is an interface, or we can say servlet is used to handle request coming from the user or request coming from the UI. So by using servlets, we can develop a web application. By using servlet, we can develop a web application. Now, let's take a scenario. In my application, there are multiple servlets available. Let's assume that there are multiple servlets available in my application. Servlet 1, servlet 2, 3, something like this. Servlet 1, servlet 2, servlet 3, servlet 4. Like this, there are multiple servlets available in our application. Servlet 1, servlet 2, servlet 3, and servlet 4. Multiple servlets available. All these servlets are running inside a server. Now, for these servlets, I want to execute some common logic. Whenever a request comes from the user, now user will be available. User is accessing our application. User can access any servlet which is available in the application. When user is sending a request, I want to perform some pre-processing and post-processing of the request. He may send a request for first servlet, second servlet, third servlet, and fourth servlet. Client can send the request to access any of the servlet available in the application. Now, I want to execute a logic to print a message, first request received. Whenever client send a request for the first servlet, I want to print a message request received. I want to print a message request received. Now, that is the requirement for the servlet 1. Same thing I need to do for servlet 2, servlet 3, and servlet 4 also. Whenever a request comes to the servlet, I want to print a message request received from the client. Whenever the request received from the client, I want to print a message on the console. Now, in my application, there are 4 servlets available. Now, in 4 servlets, I can write a message request received. This is request details logging. I want to print the information about the request received by my application. Now, when you go for the application, multiple options will be available. Client can click on any of the option. You may click on the login button. You may click on the registration button. You may click on the forget password button. You can perform any operation on the application. When you perform some operation on the application, it will send the request to servlet. When the request received by the servlet, I want to print a message on the console, request received. So in how many servlets I need to write this logic, request received? In every servlet. Now let us see. I want to create one simple web application, dynamic web project. I'm taking this as servlets app. I'm taking a project with a name called servlets app. Click on next, next, web.xml, finish. Now my application got created. Let me copy the jar files. So here I'm having servlet API.jar, servlet API.jar, JSTL jar. That's sufficient for me. SRC, Maven, web app, webinf, lib. Inside the lib folder, I kept my jar file. Okay. Then let us create one servlet class here, new class. This is my first servlet. Let me keep inside a package. servlet class. So how to represent the class as a servlet? By extending the properties from HTTP servlet. I want to map this to URL pattern. How to map this to URL pattern? By using @web servlet. Give the URL pattern for this, that is first servlet. Now I want to override do get method. Okay. So to handle a get request, I'm going for do get method. Fine. In this, I just want to print a message. I just want to print a message by using response object. Response dot get writer. It is giving the print writer object. Response dot get writer. It is giving me print writer object. Print writer out is equal to response dot get writer. Now next out dot append a message. I am from first servlet. I'm from first servlet. A message is coming from the servlet program. Now I want to send a response. That's it. Similarly, I want to create second servlet. Control C, Control V. Now second servlet. Let me map this to second servlet to a different URL pattern. Second servlet here. I'm from second servlet. So two servlet classes are available. Let's run this application. Right click, run as, run on server. Next, finish. Yeah, so it opened in the browser. Let's go for first. Yeah, we can see that the message is coming. I'm from first servlet. Similarly, let's go for second. I'm from second servlet. I am sending multiple requests. When I send a request, I want to print a message, request received. I want to print a message, request received. Now, can I write that logic inside my servlet class, system.out.println? I want to say that request received. Request received. Similarly, here also, I want to do the same thing. Whenever a request comes, I want to print that message, request received. Clear the console. Server is restarting because we have changed the code in our project. Yeah, now go to browser, refresh, request received. Let me send the request to the first servlet also. If I'm sending the request to first servlet also, now we are getting a message, request received. Like this, in my project, there are 100 servlets available. Is it recommended to write a message like this in the 100 servlets? It is not recommended. Now, what I want to do is, I want to execute some common logic for all the servlets available in the project. That's where I want to keep one filter. I want to keep one filter. We can use this filter to perform pre-processing and post-processing of a request. Sir, what is the meaning of pre-processing and post-processing of a request? Whenever user, I mean to say client, when user is sending a request to our application, it can be any servlet. It may be first servlet, or it may be second servlet, or it may be third servlet or fourth servlet. Servlet can be anything. Client is sending a request to our application. When a client is sending a request to our application, I want to execute some logic for all the requests. Sir, what kind of logic we can execute? It can be anything. It may be used to verify client is valid or not. It may be used to verify the client is having valid username and password or not. It may be used to verify in the request the data is coming or not. It may be used to verify at this point of time, can we process this request or not? Or it may be used to verify this request is coming from which country, the request is coming from which IP address. Any information that you want to execute for all the requests coming to your application, that we can do by using filter. Let us take an example. We are developing one application that is a government application, guys. This is our government application. This application should accept the request from morning 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. only. Any request which comes between 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., then only I will process that request. Okay, guys. If any request comes before 9 a.m., after 5 p.m., I will not accept that request. Are you guys getting my point? So if you go to eSeva or MeSeva or any government related industry, they will use some application. Now, if you go to SBI Bank, in the SBI Bank, employees will use one application to deposit the money, to withdraw the money. Bank timings 9 a.m. to 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. So that SBI Bank application should accept the request from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. only. If any request comes before 9 a.m., after 5 p.m., my application should not accept that request. Are you guys getting my point? Such a kind of logics can be implemented by using filter concept. Filter is used for pre-processing and post-processing of our request. Client request came. Client is trying to access first servlet. Before the request go to first servlet, I want to modify the client request. That is called pre-processing of the request. Now, once my request is executed, it is sending some response to the client. Before sending response to the client, I want to modify that response. That is called post-processing of the request. Are you guys getting my point? Here we are talking about filter. Filters are mainly used to perform pre-processing and post-processing. First one, it is used for pre-processing and post-processing. What is the meaning of pre-processing? Before processing our request, client is sending a request. That request will be processed by our servlet. Now, let us see here. I'm going to send a request to my first servlet /first. I'm sending a request to /first. Who is giving this one? Who is giving this response? First servlet is giving this response. That means, can I say my request is handled by first servlet? Can I say my request is handled by first servlet? So here, as a client, I'm sending a request to the server, the particular servlet. That servlet has taken my request. That servlet processed my request. That servlet sent a response to me. Now here, by using the filter, we can execute pre-processing logic and post-processing logic. Pre-processing logic and post-processing logic we can execute by using filter. What is the meaning of pre-processing logic? Before our servlet execute the request, if you want to modify that request, then you can go for filter. Now, I got the response from the servlet. Before sending the response to the client, I want to modify that response. That is called post-processing logic. If you want to perform pre-processing and post-processing of your request, then we can go for a concept called filters. Are you able to follow me? So what is the purpose of filter? It is used to trap all the incoming requests and responses. It is used to trap all requests and responses. Whatever the request is coming to our application, whatever the response is going from our application, filter will monitor. Filter is like a main gate for our house. Are you guys getting my point? Filter is like a main gate for, suppose for example, when you go to software company or when you go to your house, a main door will be available. Let me take an example of house or software company. Let me take an example of company. So when you go for a company, at the gate, one security guard will be available. Why that security guard will be available at the gate? To verify your ID card, whether you are belongs to that company or not. He will verify your ID card. If you are belongs to that company, then that person will allow you inside the gate. If you don't have ID card, he will stop you at the gate only. Similarly, whenever a request coming to my application, I want to verify this request is valid request or not. If the request is valid request, then I want to process the request. If the request is not a valid request, I don't want to process the request. Such a kind of filtering can be done by using filters in the advanced Java project. I mean to say, when we are developing our web application by using servlet, then you can use a filter. So filters are used to trap all the request and response. By using filter, we can execute below logics. By using filter, we can execute below logics. What are the below logics? One is pre-processing logic and the second one is post-processing logic. What is the meaning of pre-processing logic? Client sent a request. Request came to our server. Server want to process the request by calling servlet. So here, once the request is received by the server, before giving the request to the servlet, I want to execute a filter. Filter is like a front gate of our house. I have 10 servlets in my project. Before giving the request to my servlet, I want to verify this request is valid or not. I want to verify this request is valid or not. If request is valid, then only I want to forward the request. Otherwise, I don't want to forward the request. So pre-processing, before request processing by the servlet, that request we can access by using filter. And post-processing of the request. What is the meaning of a post-processing? My servlet executed, my servlet gave some response. Before sending the response to the client, I want to customize that response. That can be done by using filter. Are you able to follow me? Now, let me create one filter. Right click on the project, new. Here, there is a direct option called filter. Servlet is available, filter is available. Let me create a filter. I'm giving the name my filter. My filter. Next, next, finish. Now, I'm able to create a filter. To represent this class as a filter class, we are using one annotation called @webfilter. So to map our servlet to URL pattern, which annotation? @webservlet. To map our filter to a URL pattern, we are using @webfilter. Now here, filter also having a life cycle. Filter destroy method, filter init method is available, and filter do filter method is available. Okay, good. Now, so like this, we are having filter. We are extending HTTP filter and we are implementing filter interface. Now here, destroy method is available. When the filter is removed from the container, this destroy method will be executed. I don't want this. Init method, when the request received by, when the object is created for the filter, init method will be executed. Now, here I am having do filter. So do filter is the method which will execute for every request. Whenever you send a request to the application, every request will be received by my filter. My filter is having do filter method. Do filter method we can use to access request information and response information. System.out.println. I'm just writing one message. Filter executed. I just want to show you when this filter is getting executed. I've created a class, my filter, extending from HTTP filter, implementing filter interface. I'm giving the URL pattern @webfilter/myfilter. All right. Now filter is created. Let's try to access our servlet. Now my first servlet and this is my second servlet. This is my filter. If the filter is executed, it will print a message on the console. Let's go to our application. Run as run on server. Next, finish. Yep. Now let's check the console. In the console, server log is available. Clear the console. Go to the browser. Execute the request. Filter is executed or filter is not executed? Filter is not executed because if the filter is executed, this method will be called and it will print this message on the console. Now we created a filter to perform pre-processing and post-processing. We created a filter to perform pre-processing and post-processing. I'm sending a request for the first servlet and I'm sending the request for second servlet also. Servlets are executing, but filter is executing or filter is not executing. Servlets are executed, but filter is not executed. Now here, in order to execute the filter, we need to specify this filter should be executed for which servlets. This filter should be executed for first servlet or this filter should be executed for second servlet. We need to specify that. Let us see how I am going to specify. URL patterns. URL patterns is equal to /star. Whenever a request comes to any servlet, then I want to execute my filter. So that's why I'm giving the URL patterns is equal to /star. So if you send a request for first servlet, then this filter should be executed. Whenever you send a request for second servlet, then also this filter should be executed. Now clear the console. Now send the request. I'm from second servlet. Now can you see my filter is executed or not executed? Filter is executed. Now let me go and send the request for first servlet. Check the console. Filter is executed or not. So now if I want to execute any common logic, do I need to write that common logic in all the servlet classes, or I can write the common logic inside a filter? Inside a filter. Whenever a request comes to our application, then filter is going to process that request. Our request will be received by filter. Inside the filter, we can access request data. Any data that we are getting in the request dot get parameter. Request dot get parameter. I'm expecting some name. I'm expecting some name. Right. Request dot get parameter. I want to get some name. I want to get some name. Request parameter. So this name, whatever you are sending in the request, I can access in the filter. Actually, we are sending the request to first servlet. You want to send some data to first servlet. Any data that you are sending to first servlet, directly it will go to the servlet or first it will go to the filter. Now in our scenario, request will go to first servlet directly or request will go to filter. From the filter, it will go to the servlet. Where our request will go first? First, our request will go to filter. What is the purpose of the filter? What is the purpose of the filter? Which is used to trap all the incoming requests and responses. Now let us see how I am going to trap it. Now here filter is available. Filter is available. What is the message is giving by first servlet? I am from first servlet. Now see, I am from first servlet. Go to second servlet. I am from second servlet. Now for responses, I want to add a message hi. Hi message I want to add before the first servlet message and before the second servlet message. First servlet is giving this message. Second servlet also giving this message. I want to append content hi. Now let's see here how I am going to do that by using filter. Here I'm going to access response dot get writer. That print writer object I want to get. Response dot get writer. I'm going to get this writer object. Now writer dot append hi. Where I am writing hi message? In the filter, I'm writing the hi message. All right. Now see, application is stopped. Right click, run as, run on server, next and finish. Okay, go to this. Hi is coming to the first servlet message. Go to the second servlet, send that request. So response is modified by the servlet or response modified by the filter? Modified by the filter. Now tell me, so what is the purpose of the filter? To trap the request and response coming to our application, we can use filter. So by using filters, we can execute pre-processing logic as well as post-processing logic. Now, when the hi message is added before request processing or after request processing? After request processing. Now, my servlet processed that request. My servlet has given this message. After servlet has given this message, my filter modified that message. My filter modified that message. That is called post-processing. So you can perform pre-processing and post-processing by using filters. Yeah, just make a note of that, guys. Filters. Even when we go for frameworks also, these filters will be available. Even in the Spring WebMVC also, filters will be available. Filters. Filters. Filters are used to trap. Filters are used to trap. Filters are used to trap. Filters are used to trap request and response. Filters are used to trap request and response. Yogesh, I will answer your question. Okay. Filters are used to trap all requests and responses. By using filters, we can execute pre-processing and post-processing logics. By using filters, we can execute pre-processing and post-processing logics. By using filters, we can execute pre-processing and post-processing logics. Pre-processing means before processing the request. Pre-processing means before processing the request by servlet, or pre-processing means before servlet processing the request, before servlet processing the request, before servlet processing the request. Filter can access that request, and filter can modify that request. Pre-processing means before servlet processing the request, filter can access that request and filter can modify that request. Post-processing means after servlet processed our request, filter can access that Filter can access that response given by servlet, and filter can modify that response. Post processing means after servlet processed our request, filter can access that response given by servlet and filter can modify that response. Filter can modify that response. Okay, now let us see here, guys. And one more thing I'm going to do here. I'm going to create one variable, private static integer count is equal to 0, right? Now whenever a request comes, I'm going to increment that variable. Whenever a request comes, I'm going to increment that count variable by using count plus plus. I'm trying to increment that count variable. Now writer dot append hi, some message is available here. Writer dot append hi is available. Hi message will be there. Then here I'm going to make, instead of this append hi, what I will do is request count plus count. Then writer dot append I'm giving a break tag. After printing this message, I want to execute that next line. Writer dot append a break tag I'm writing. Okay. Now let us see. Run this application, run on server, finish. Clear the console. Yeah. I'm sending a request break tag. 1 minute. Request count. No. I want to execute a break. Request count. Huh? It is a string, but when it comes to the browser, it should execute like that, right? No. It's not JSP, it is just a browser. Run on server, finish. I just want to show you how many number of requests received by our application. Okay, see here. When I'm sending a request, the request count is increasing or not? Yep. Now, when I'm sending this request, see request number 24, 25, 28, 30 like this. So if I'm sending the request, it is telling me how many number of requests received. Suppose I want to display page visitors count. How many people accessed my website? I want to display that number. Can we print that page visitors count by using this filter technique? Yes or no? Now, whenever a request comes, then my filter will be executed. Initially, I have taken count is equal to 0. Then count plus plus. Whenever I'm sending a response, I'm showing that message in the browser, request count 68, 72, 74. See here, the request count is keep on increasing. That means my application received these many requests. These many people visited my website. Like this, we can maintain page visitors count also by using a filter, because Whenever a request comes, my filter will execute. When the filter is executed, I can increment that count variable. That count I can consider as number of requests received by my application, right? So like this also we can use the filter. Common use cases to filter use cases. Scenarios. In which scenario we will go for filters. Filter use cases. One of the use case is request logging, authentication, request logging and authentication, page visitors count, page visitors count, page visitors count, request modification, response modification, request modification, response modification can be done by using filters. Request logging means specifying when request came to our application. Print a message, request received at this time, response sent at this time. Like this we can log the request by using filter. And the second one is authentication, request authentication. What is the meaning of authentication? Credentials are valid or not, we can verify. Whenever client is sending a request, we will verify credentials are valid or not. If credentials are valid, then only we will process that request. Otherwise, we will not process that request. That authentication also we can do by using filter. Next one, page visitors count. What is the meaning of page visitors count? How many people accessed our website? That also we can count by using filter. Request modification. That means whenever a client sends the request, we can verify the details available in the request or not. We can modify the data in the request also by using filter. And response modification. My servlet has given some response. I want to customize that response before sending to the client. That response modification also can be done by using filter. So by using these filters, we can execute pre-processing logic as well as post-processing logic. All right. Now filter use cases. Note down these points. Request logging means storing the details when the request is received and when the response is sent. Request received time, response dispatched time. That is called request logging. Noting down or maintaining, storing request received time. That is called a logging. Storing request received time can be called as request logging. Storing request received time is called as request logging. Now, if you have a requirement, request should be accepted only 9 AM to 5 PM. Can we do that? Can we do that by using filter? I want to handle the request between 9 AM to 5 PM. If any request comes before 9 AM, after 5 PM, I don't want to process that request. How can we do that? By using filter. Here, I will get the current hour. I will get the current hour. If a current hour is in between 9 to 17, that is 5, then only I will forward. Otherwise, I will send error response. Are you clear? Now see, how can we do that? Now I'm removing this request count logic also. This one also I'm removing. Here, we are going to get the current hour. How to get the current hour? Come on. calendar dot new instance, calendar dot calendar dot hour of day. What I'm going to get, guys? Calendar dot hour of day. So what it is going to give me? Current hour. So now what I will do here, if the time is between, if the current hour is in between, if hour of day greater than or equal to 9, greater than or equal to 9 and greater than or equal to 9 and hour of day less than or equal to 17, then chain dot do filter, that means process the request, that means process the request. Else what I will send? I will send the response back to the client. How? Response dot get writer dot append your request cannot be processed. Office hours completed. Office hours closed. Office closed. Office closed. Please try tomorrow. Office closed. Please try tomorrow. So now what I'm trying to do is, whenever a request comes to the filter, I'm getting what is the current hour of the day. So if the current hour is greater than or equal to 9 and less than or equal to 17, 17 means 5 o'clock, 24 hours format. So here, if this condition is satisfied, then I'm doing chain dot to do filter. Chain dot to do filter means filter chain. If there is any other filter, execute that filter. If there is no other filter, then forward the request to the actual servlet. That is the meaning of do filter. Chain dot do filter. If any other filter is available, that filter will be executed. If the filter is not available, this request will go to the actual servlet. Okay. If this condition is satisfied, it will call chain dot do filter. If this condition is not satisfied, then what I am sending? Error message to the client. Now let's execute this, run on server. Next, finish. My application started. Send the request. 1 minute. Response dot get writer append. Let me do the debugging, guys. Why condition is not satisfied? What is the hour value we are getting? Still yeah, 1 minute. Let me check this. Debug on server. Let me keep a breakpoint. What is the current hour it is getting? Yeah. F6. Huh? What is this? 11. Calendar dot hour of day 11. सिस्टम टाइम कुछ गलत है क्या? Calendar dot hour field number to get the set indicating the hour of day is used for the 24-hour clock. Value is 11. 1 minute. Let me try now. $17. Okay, less than or equal to 17 we have given. That's why it is processing. Now, if I give 16, for up to 17 it will come under like that. Now, no problem. That means exactly at 4:59 it is going to stop accepting our request. Till 4:59 it is going to accept our request. So I have stopped it. Right click, run on server, next, and finish. Yeah, even if I am accessing the home page, what it is telling now? Office closed, please try tomorrow. So if I try to access first servlet, what happened? Same response. If I am sending the request to the second servlet also, I will get the same response. Correct. Office closed, please try tomorrow. After 9 o'clock, the condition will satisfy, it will process our request. So if you have any such kind of requirement to process the request only within the given amount of time, instead of writing this logic in all the servlets, we can write that logic inside a filter. Now take this filter. So calendar directly, if you go for hour of day, it is giving the default value. We need to pass that to the get method. Then it will give the correct hour at present. Earlier, I have directly called this constant. We should not call the constant, that we need to call by using get method. Calendar is a predefined class. Using that calendar, I'm calling the get method. For that get method, I'm passing calendar.hour of day. It is giving me current hour. If a current hour is greater than 9 and hour of day is less than or equal to 16, then only I will process. Chain.do filter to process. If this condition not satisfied, it will go to else block. So if this line is not executed, our servlet will not execute. You can do that also. Yeah, this is also not required. So are you ready for Spring Boot from day after tomorrow? No. Yes or no? Voice is not coming. Yes. whatever Spring is required, that will be covered. First, I will start with the Spring only. Directly, I will not go for Spring Boot. First, I will teach you Spring concepts. Yeah, then we will go for the boot. Whatever the Spring concepts are required, we will cover those concepts. Then only we will go for Spring Boot. Hibernate, how many examples completed? One example. Pure Hibernate. Okay. CRUD operations, save method, get method, load method, delete, update. If you have the basic knowledge on the Hibernate, then JPA you can understand easily. I want you to integrate Hibernate in the web application also. Earlier we used JDBC, right? Now we need to use the Hibernate with the servlet. So you understand what is filter. So any common logic that you want to write for multiple servlets, you can do that by using filter. So basically it is used for pre-processing and post-processing. Sorry? This is pre-processing one. I mean, so pre-processing, post-processing. If you do some operation on the request object, that is pre-processing. If you do some operation on the response, that is post-processing. Both are happening here. You are able to customize the request and you are able to customize the response also. Now, earlier in the example, I have given hi message for every response. That means post-processing only. Now, whenever a request comes, I am calling this method, right? If the condition satisfied. So this is pre-processing only. If the request is coming between 9 to 5, then only it will process. Otherwise, it will not process. Can I say it is a pre-processing logic? Yes. Completed? Make a note. The above filter having the URL pattern as /star. The above filter having the URL pattern /star. The above filter having the URL pattern as /star. That means this filter will execute for all requests coming to our application. The above filter having the URL pattern as /star. That means this filter will execute for all the requests coming to our application. Above filter contains the logic. Above filter contains the logic. Above filter contains the logic to process the request. The above filter contains the logic. The above filter contains the logic to process the request. To process the request which comes in between 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The above filter contains the logic to process the request which comes in between 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Next line. Chain.do filter method. Chain.do filter method. Chain.do filter method is used for filter chaining. Chain.do filter method is used for filter chaining. Chain.do filter method is used for filter chaining. That means chain.do filter method is used for filter chaining. Chain.do filter method is used for filter chaining. That means it will call the next filter available in the application. That means it will call the next filter available in the application. That means it will call the next filter available in the application. It will call the next filter that is available in the application. If there is no filter available, if there is no filter available, then it will forward the request to actual resource. If there is no filter available, then it will forward the request to actual resource. Inside the bracket, servlet or JSP. I'm trying to access a servlet. Filter executed. Filter is doing the filter chaining. So if there is no filter, it will forward the request to my servlet. Suppose, for example, if I don't have like this, then what will happen, guys? Chain.do filter. What will happen? Filter will execute, then it will go to my servlet. That's it. So like this, we can write a filter to perform pre-processing and post-processing logic. What is the meaning of pre-processing and post-processing? Sorry? Before sending to the servlet, after receiving by the servlet, then we can execute that filter. You can take this diagram. User is sending a request. First filter will execute, then our servlets are going to execute. First filter will execute, then our servlet will execute. Completed? Yeah. So with this we understood what is a filter, why we need to go for filter, and how to develop filter. One last concept that is important, guys, that is session tracking. That is session tracking. So tomorrow I'm going to explain this session tracking concept. Before coming to tomorrow's session, I want you to do some analysis. What is the session tracking? Why session tracking? How many ways we can track the session? What is session tracking? This is the assignment. What is the session tracking? Why session tracking? How many ways? How many ways? How many ways available to track the session? How many ways available to track the session? Which is the best approach for session tracking? What is the best approach? What is best approach to track session in web application? What is the session tracking? Why session tracking? How many ways available to track the session? What is the best approach to track session in the web application? So tomorrow we are going to understand this. So tomorrow we'll discuss session tracking mechanisms, guys. So before coming to tomorrow's session, I want you people to analyze what is this session tracking, why we need to go for session tracking, how many ways available to track the session, and what is best approach to track session in the web application. So this is our last topic in the advanced Java. So tomorrow we'll discuss about this. Tomorrow we have class at regular time. So mostly we'll take at 4 o'clock. 4 to 6:30 I will take 2.5 hours. It will take to understand session tracking concept. From Wednesday at 5 p.m. our Spring Boot, Spring with Spring Boot is going to start. Okay, good. That is ways, right? Same way in the filter also you can call the DAO method. No, you can't write everything in the filter, right? Filter is for common logic. I will clarify that. Yeah. Guys, are you clear with this? So what is the task for tomorrow? So you people need to analyze session tracking before coming to class. Tomorrow I'm going to ask questions on these things. Once you answer the questions, then I will explain how to implement them. At least theoretically, I want you to do the analysis. Beautiful resources available in the internet to understand these concepts. I just want you to Google and go through that, analyze whatever you analyze, just explain me tomorrow. Then I will tell you about these concepts, how to implement them, all that stuff. Okay, good. Thank you, guys. We'll continue tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll meet at 4 o'clock. Sorry? Yep. Thank you, guys. Tomorrow we'll meet at 4 o'clock. Yeah.